previous video we made a basic server. I explained you can understand server like a black box. When user sends a request, it does some processing behind the scene. It have a definite structure, and by that it sends a response to us. So now we will understand how does it sends the response and how is the basic structure of our server. So let's proceed. So this is the basic structure. Like we have a index.js. For example, a user sends a request. Now the request first comes to index.js. It can be anything, it can be server.js or anything. It comes here first. Then it have further multiple routes like auth, users, API. Like here we have auth route, and if I further write something like a login, it will be the sub route. Or so our request comes to our auth, and auth.js defines all the routes required. Like it can be login, it can be register. In fact, there can be more routes like forgot password, anything. There can be multiple routes, and same for the users. Like here the request comes to users.js, and it defines all the routes, and it then goes to the controller. Now what happens in the controller? In the controller, actually the functions are defined. We only name the functions. Like if the request is auth login, then call this login function. But what is in the login function? It is defined here in the controllers. All the functions and all the functions are defined in this controller. This is not a like global thing. We can put all the things in index.js itself. We can put all the things in the index file itself, but it will make the file messy. In fact, we can also skip the controllers part and define the functions in the routes itself, but it will make the things messier, and it is not recommended. So we can say that this is our routes, and this is our controllers. So when we will see this practically, you will understand this. And one more important thing, like you may think like here the user is sending request, but it's not like this. Here actually our front end is making the request. Actually there is a big wall here. We can call it like interface, our interface. We do not permit the user to access our server. We have an interface, and the things we define in the interface and allow the user to access, that only user can access. Like user have access to only this interface. User can access only this interface and not anything else. Like if I forgot to add a login button, and I only have a register button. So although I have a login and it's all controller and routes logic here in the server, but user cannot access it because user have the interface, not the direct access to the server. User don't have the direct access to the server, so how can it access it, right? So this is the thing. All the things are happening through the interface. This can be a front end or anything, or API. If and only if you know Django, you are familiar with Django, then watch this. Otherwise you can skip this part. So in Django we know, like we have this structure. We have a URL resolver, and we have a urls.py in the project directory, which serves the other URLs files in the app files in the app directory in the other apps, and it further communicates with the views.py. So if we have to set up an analogy, we can easily set up like this. Works as routes, as we discussed in our express. These urls.py can work as routes, and this url.py majorly is a subset of our index.js. Actually, our index.js can do a lot more, and here views.py is our controllers, is like our controllers. So this is our structure. So this is how you can understand it if you are already familiar with Django. But always remember, Django is a framework, so things are very opinionated there. But Express is like a library. Actually, it is a library, so you can define anything. Like you can combine the routes and control. Let's begin coding for the routes part. So we have this code of our basic server we wrote in our previous video. So if you have not seen the previous video, you can just go to our channel and search for it. In the description I have mentioned the link, you can see it. So this is the link. Here you can find the code, and I will also post code I will write in this video in the description, so do check out. So what we did in the previous video was, it was actually login here. So what we did was this, we have defined this for our route. If our server receives a GET request, it handles it by routing it to the login endpoint. But what if we have more endpoints like login, blocks, like feed, users, profiles? We can have multiple routes, and each one have a complex logic. Each one can have a complex logic. So we cannot fit all of them in a single file. It will make the code messy. So we will have a proper structure. We will, by setting up the routes and controllers, it will make our code maintainable, and our index.js, which is our main file, will look clean. So let's begin. I want to set up an authentication route. So it will get it by, so we will set up the route API auth. We can also have a like something on the root route hello world. So go inside server and make a folder routes. Now inside routes, make a folder auth.js. So you can see we have made a folder, made a file. Now we will set up this file. First of all, we will import Express. Then we will make a router. Now we can simply write a route.get root. We can define a fat arrow function and give a message like, you can copy this and write here inside auth route. And yes, we can have a request and response in the parameter. So So yeah, basically we have set up the basic part of the route, and now we have to configure our index.js. So how we do it? So we can define a router here, and we have to require this auth.js. So routes auth. Now just to, instead of this whole thing, we can pass this router. It is that simple. Now how our file will know what function should it export? So we have to write it. So how will our file know, like which variable should it export? So since we are using a common JS, we have to write modules dot export equal to route. To router. Now we can start the server. Node index.js. Modules is not defined. Sorry, it will be module bs. Now you can see the server has started. We can now check it. The port 5000. Yeah, we can see the hello world. Instead of app.get, we can use app.use, because we are referring to our router. So yeah, now it will work fine. To start the server. Now if you refresh it, it will work fine. We are inside the auth. Now if you have noticed, we have to start our server again and again if we make any changes. It's a kind of very irritating. So for that you can install a package called nodemon. Just type this command, and nodemon will be installed. So now you can just write nodemon index.js, or just write nodemon. You can see the nodemon is started. It automatically catched the index.js. Now if you make any changes, it will automatically restart itself. Obviously it will give error, but if you restart again, now it is working smoothly. So now you can have multiple routes here, like you can have a login, you can have register, login, register. So important notice is that we are using API auth. So now if you are referring to route here, it actually means this. If we are referring to register, we are actually referring to this thing. So we are always adding on to our parent route, and define here all the subroutes. Now we can have our full authentication system here. So we have kind of cleaned, we have a clean index.js. We don't have to define all the login, register and password things. We can do all of them in the routes. But if you notice, if we have like hundreds line of code for login or register, it will still make the code messy, right? For that we have controllers, which you will see in the next video. Like this code can be very long, right? It will not be very readable, if the code gets very long. So we'll use controllers to avoid it. You can check this login. We are now inside login. Register, we will be inside register. So yeah, it is working properly. See you in the next video and we will see about controllers.